Okay, guys, welcome to another version of the Pandacast. I'm SamuraiPanda, or Bunney, the CEO of Panda Global, and today's topic is going to be how to get a sponsor or team. Now, there's going to be a couple soapbox issues. It's a very complicated issue. I'm going to do my best to sort of simplify and package this in a way that is more understandable and more applicable to different people. I do apologize if I'm a little distracted. Literally, just as I sat down to film this, Joker got released, so that's pretty exciting for Smash fans out there. Now, let's get started. Let me get on my soapbox, okay, for a second here, and this is something that I've been harping on for many years now. I hate the word sponsor. Okay, we do not sponsor players as Panda Global. We sign them. We are a team, not a sponsor. There's a big difference between a team and a sponsor. We, as a team, have sponsors: Geico, HyperX, Toshiba, Zippo. All these awesome sponsors. And when we bring someone on, we don't just sponsor them. If we sponsored a player, it sounds like we're just throwing a T-shirt on them and calling it a day, and that's not at all the case. So the reason why it's in the title and the reason why I say that as part of the topic is because people still use the word, sponsor me, or I want to be sponsored. That's not the case. You want to be signed to a team, or at least I hope. And this actually does matter, and we'll get into the differentiation in a little bit later too. So let's also start off, instead of just how you get the team, why do you want a team? What does a team do for you? Well, probably one of the biggest things that a team does for a player is, that people immediately want or look for is legitimacy. When you're signed to a team, you are seen as someone who's legitimately an up-and-comer or a threat or, will be someone within the scene. So for a lot of players, it's a sense of validation that they've made it. When they get to a team. And it is a pretty big deal for a lot of people. But in terms of actual tangible things, a lot of it is growth and opportunities. Different teams have different amount of resources and different platforms that are available for players, and they can help push them and guide them in different directions. Obviously, the resources would be things like traveling to different tournaments, hotels, flights, depending on the teams, salaries, depending on the players, of course, too. Merchandise, you get their jerseys, you get get their sponsors things as well. Like you get a Zippo hand warmer when you sign with Panda Global. You get a lot of awesome HyperX stuff. There's a bunch of other things that are available too. And then the other resources, like the people within the team. Talking to them, asking them what is the best food to eat during the day for the tournament, or if any of them are going to be there, or to practice together if they play the same game, and well, how do you do the YouTube video like this, or how do you what's the best way to stream for this, or what's the best stream goal for this. There's a lot of opportunity and chances that you have to ask other people within the same field, sort of thing, advice and guidance, and some teams will also have like coaches or therapists, or psychiatrists that can also help get your head in the game, stay in the game, etc. There's a lot of benefit to being on a team, and that's why you see every top player on a team, and not many people within at least FGC Smash, which are our specialties and the 1v1 titles, who want to go it alone. Very few people opt to do that for a reason. So now I'm going to sort of separate how do you get a team into what sort of player that you are. Okay, when you first enter the competitive scene, and this is a generality, not everyone's the same, but a lot of people this applies to. You start out being the best in your friend group, right? You may or may not watch streams, you may or may not really understand the scene or the local crew or tournament stuff. And obviously at that point you're not necessarily signable, because there's no intrinsic value to having you on the team. And then you start going to tournaments, local tournaments, in the beginning, and you start doing better and better, and maybe one day you are the best in your area, okay? And people who are the best in their area then want to take it to the next level and want to compete at regionals or majors. They want to be on the bigger stage. So when those players who are the best or one of the best at their local scene, at that point you may be eligible for a sponsor. And not a team, but a sponsor. And what does a sponsor mean? A sponsorship typically is the local game shops that are hosting your tournaments. They might like you enough to be like, yo, we think you could be someone. We're going to crowdfund, with our local guys or put towards a pop bonus, your flight to this tournament. We'll get you a t-shirt. You wear it. You promote our brand on this grand stage. Good luck. Go see what our scene can do on the greater scene. So that's a sponsor. Okay, they're literally, a little bit of support financially sometimes, a t-shirt, or sometimes not even a t-shirt, a quick tag at the beginning of your name, and go out and be great. So these are, let's say, the pre, power ranked or PGR'd players. I like the term PGR'd, obviously. So this is before the player has really broken out into the scene. Obviously, it's very rare, but sometimes those players will actually be incredible, and do really, really well in the beginning. But more often, they have to climb the ranks. The more common case is that they have to learn how to play in a competitive scene. They have to get used to the pressures of tournaments, learn different matchups, and learn how to compete the best. So then you start rising the ranks. And as you rise the ranks, there's different availability. So let's say there's a top 50 list, like a PGR. Be it Panda Global Ranking. And let's say people within the top 30 to 50, they're in slightly of an awkward place. Can they be signed to teams? They can sometimes, but really only those that stand out, or maybe those that get to know team owners very well, or those that have a lot of potential. It's very rare. It's very difficult to find those players and to scout them out unless the team understands the scene very well. These players are the ones who struggle the most because they have to travel to get more experience. They have to get out there to do more, but it's very, very difficult, especially financially. And for these players in the top 30 to 50, it's super important that they get a brand going. What is a brand? A brand is essentially, how much influence you carry within a community. And how do you carry influence is that you have fans. And how do you activate with the fans is you do Twitter, impressions or followers, engagement. Instagram, they're very similar, likes, followers, engagement. Facebook, likes, comments, basically engagement, less important. Facebook is not as active for gaming. And streaming, subs, stream numbers, stream viewers, stream hours, regularity, and then of course YouTube or other content, which subscribers then become fans of you and engage in other ways. YouTube in and of itself, from a team's perspective, is not as valuable because it's very difficult, I think, for the YouTubers to convey their team and the team sponsors to a YouTube audience and be able to convert that to more active forms of social media like Twitter or Twitch. That said, YouTube is, when done well, invaluable to a player's brand. So a lot of teams really love seeing YouTube's, not because it directly benefits them, but because it directly benefits the players very, very well. So the top 30 to 50, as I clearly pushed or clearly mentioned here, their placings don't matter as much. These players typically get signed because of circumstance, like knowing the team owners, or because they have really good metrics, like they are really entertaining on Twitter, and have a fire Twitter game, or they have a lot of potential, and that team particularly understands that this player will be better in the next ranking list. They'll continue to rise ranks and have the potential to topple some top players. But in order for a team to really make back their investment on someone, on a player, in the 30 to 50 ranking, those metrics really, really, really make an enormous difference. Okay. Then you sort of get into the hazy area of like the top 30 to 15. These numbers are rough. Okay. For how far down a list, like a power ranking list that teams will go, depends on the game. It depends on if the game is popular enough, if it has enough viewership, if it has enough prize money, if, there's 100 factors in it. And you can really see a difference between, let's say, like last year sometime, Smash 4 and Melee, both Smash games, but top 15 players were not really getting signed to Smash 4 anymore. Top 10 had difficulty finding, teams to sign with. And it was really beyond that. Melee, they had top 20, top 30 signed to pretty decent teams. So the 30 to 15 range-ish is sort of this hazy range where, they might sign to a pretty good team because of, happenstance or circumstances. This is where metrics are even more important because these are players that can sort of be elevated by their metrics. Meaning, let me take a step back and say there are differences between teams. A lot of people colloquially, like on the internet, will like to tier teams, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 teams. I don't really personally care for those, rankings, even though it's very flattering. People call us a tier 1 team. And, to me, it's more about the resources that teams have to provide to the players, and what platform they provide to the players as well, which is, one of those resources. A very resource heavy team will be looking at that upper end of the top 15. We'll get to that in a bit. A resource sort of rich team, but not quite as much resources as these resource heavy ones. So the resource rich teams, have a little bit more flexibility in who they would pick up, and they're looking at the top 5 to 15. And then you sometimes get the resource like plentiful teams, let's call it. And those sort of teams, will shoot for that 30 to 15 range typically. And so for that 30 to 15 range, a resource plentiful team, would be great for them. But sometimes, depending on the team, or depending on the player, rather, they can sometimes go to the resource-rich teams, to that next level of team, just based on their metrics. Like some players can really knock it out of the park with streams or with Twitter, and teams will find interest in this because you'll find that a lot of the teams, as it gets to the top 15, will have player types that they look for. Okay. So, that 30 to 15 range is that murky area where you can sometimes sign with a good team or an okay team, and it's really hit or miss. There's no rules when it comes to that. All right. Then let's say 15, which are the upper echelon, the top players of the game. Again, number of top 15 is sort of made up on the spot. It depends on game to game. Sometimes it's top 2. Sometimes it's top 30. All depends. Okay. So top 15, these are the players that they are the cream of the crop. And, teams then have to want to decide between them for what they want out of a player and what they're looking for. Now, for example, not every top 15 player has a quote-unquote strong brand, which is to mean, engagement and social media and streaming. They may not be very good at that. Some teams don't care. Some teams actually don't care at all. And these are typically like specific teams, and I'm not going to drop any names, that care about placings more than anything else. Not many teams are like that. And why? That's because the teams make money in different ways. Esports is not simple. It's very, very complicated, especially on a team end, as to what a team needs or looks for among players and can derive value out of. So let me give you a perspective for Panda Global. Panda Global can derive value in the placings of our players, but that's not where we derive the most value in our players. That's not what we look for in our players. Yes, we look for people who have the capabilities of winning, who we truly believe will become winners someday, because we feel very strongly about that. But almost more important than winning, they have to be entertaining, electric. You have to, you not have to, but these are players that fans really cheer for, that underdogs that really are up there, that have the potential to be great, that when they win, you feel so good and you cheer so hard for it and you're so happy for it. Anyone listening or watching this that saw, ESAM at Ultimate Nimbus get to that game 10 against Light in the reset, and then that SD, ESAM was trending on Twitter. Not Light, who won. Not the event, Nimbus. ESAM. Because everyone's heart broke for that guy. Mine too. But that's what we look for so hard in our players. Players that you can cheer for, that you can get behind, community leaders that make their scenes better, a better place, and can help us make their scenes a better place, that can help us do more and be better for that community. These are things that Panda Global looks for. So the social media stuff is important, but not because of the social media stuff, but because, they need to be that influential. They need to be that person within the scene that people care about. And hey, look, we don't always have the heroes. Trust me, that's not always what we look for. If you look at someone like F-Champ and Punk, they had mouths on them. Those are Street Fighter players before. They were, not Punk. Punk is adorable in many ways. Don't tell Punk I said that. F-Champ is a heel. He's a villain in the scene, but that matters because people were cheering for him to lose. And these are the sort of things that Panda Global is able to drive, our revenue from, and essentially where we extract value from is sort of that dynamism of the players. And this is fairly unique to us. Most teams don't look at that, admittedly. So that makes us a very unique beast within esports. So that said, there are, teams that only care about placings, as I said. There are teams that care about, stream metrics only. There are teams that only care about Twitter because that's really where that matters most to them. And then on top of that, you have to sort of fit the vibe of the team. PG couldn't pick up a lot of players because you'd be like, man, this is very innate. This is very instinctual. You'll be like, it would be so weird to see this guy on PG. Think about it. I bet you could name off the top of your head 4 or 5 players right now that you'd be like, man, that would be a weird fit for PG. That vibe, it does matter a lot more than you think. Because in PG's aspect, because we do see our players as like a family, and they do interact together, they hang out together. So like the player has to be able to hang out with our guys to some extent. Like they have to be able to have fun with them and feel like they're family or like brothers and sisters. But for other teams, it's like there's certain personality tropes that really mesh well with their audience, and it clicks well with them, and they look for that as well. So okay. And that is very vague and makes it very difficult, right, for you to say, okay, if I was a top 15 player, how am I supposed to get picked up? And if you are below that even, what are you trying, how should you focus? And that what I'm trying to basically say is every team is a little bit different for what they're looking for. For one team, they may think that YouTube is the only thing that matters for them, or the most important thing that matters to them. So if someone focuses all of their attention on YouTube, hey, that might be it. Like that might get you onto a team. If there's a team that focuses only on Twitter, and you do Twitter really, really well, you have amazing impressions, amazing engagement, a lot of followers, and you're very popular, that might be what the team is looking for. If there's a team that only looks at placings, you could just ignore all of that stuff. Admittedly, this is probably the hardest one to do, I think, in a lot of ways. You can just ignore all of that and become top 3 in the world, and then it gets signed to a resource-rich, heavy team. So when approaching it, different teams want different things. If you focus on really what you are good at, along with the game, then you will have a path towards getting a team. And for a lot of players, and this is what we tell people that join PG as well, being on a team is not the end point. A lot of people see that as an end point. They see that as, once I'm on a team, I'm good. I'm going to coast. And that's the wrong mindset. When you are a team, that is the beginning. That is when you start. That is when you use the resources that you now have newly available to you and knock it out of the park. Because what happens one day if you lose that team? What do you have left? The things that I've been talking about this whole time. You have your YouTube. You have your stream. You have your brand. What if one day your game just poof disappeared? Something happened and there's a virus corrupted the whole online server or whatever it is, and you can no longer compete in your game. Is that it? Do you no longer have a career? No. You have to shoot for an end point where you are sustainable, with or without a team. And the team should in my opinion, help you get there. And that is something that Panda Global finds very important for our players, and we really try to push our players to do, whenever possible, is to lead into that greater perspective, that greater career, and make a living from esports, because that's the thing. A lot of players, they cannot make a living off of esports. If when their game is done, they're done. And that's not what we want. We want professional gaming and, entertaining and, streaming and content creation. We want this to become a career. We want our players to be stable in the long term and have something more to do after, they're done competing. It's something we're very passionate about, and look, we're not always successful, but we try. We try to do our best to give the resources to the players, and if they take the resources, cool. If they knock it out of the park, we are ecstatic, and that's really our goal. So thank you for listening. I know I rambled on a little bit, but it is a fairly complicated topic. I hope I covered everything about it. If you have any questions, please leave it. Any constructive criticism, please leave it. I'm trying to get a little bit better about this and really trying to make this a regular thing. I'm ignoring all the messages I'm getting. And we'll see. Let me know if there's any topics you want me to cover. And have a good one.